Okay, hello everyone. This is Brock from lastcar.info. Can you hear me okay on the microphone here? I wasn't sure if it was synced up. I know there are two different links on here. I wasn't sure if the other one was synced up with my microphone. So this is the one to be in if the other one is up or not. I'm spreading this one on Twitter and also in the chat from the video that just wrapped up. So everyone will get directed the right direction, hopefully. Excellent. Okay, we start to see some more people. Excellent. Okay, great. Well, thank you again, everyone, for tuning in on episode 3 of Rise of the Field Fillers. This is a lot of fun to do. And, it's gotten to the point now where this is kind of my primary focus now is really working on this series. Of course, it helps. It's the off season. But really enjoy bringing this to you guys. I wasn't sure how much if it was going to be good to release it this weekend because I know people are traveling everywhere over Thanksgiving weekend. I hope you had a fantastic Thanksgiving for our American viewers here the last couple of days. But always wanted to do something close to a holiday special, I guess. So putting something out here this time of year. I figure it'd be kind of fun to do here. So, a lot of people to thank here for this particular project. Brian Hallman, big thanks to him for providing a lot of the photos you see in that video, the ones that are credited to him on that. He had some great pictures and volunteered those over for the video, which is particularly helpful, especially in cases like the fall race at Darlington, where there's not a lot of footage of the number 50 car in that. I was glad I was able to get some pictures there from that. He also had a picture of the 2003 Billy Bigley car from Bristol. It didn't make it into the video. I believe I put that. It was somewhere on there, but it was an interesting story there in general. Those qualifying clips, I gotta say, I know it was mentioned in the chat there too. The efforts that Billy Bigley was putting in to get the car into the show there at Indianapolis was something to see, and it really ends up being kind of a big focus of a lot of these teams, and you'll see this in future episodes. A lot of times qualifying is like the race day for these teams and really trying to make sure they make the cut, especially when you have the thing I think is most interesting is when you compare the first half of the season to the second half, where you have just enough cars or barely enough to fill the field. And then when you start having a few extra teams that are joining in, some extra field fillers, as well as some extra teams that are fielded by the big teams. Joe Gibbs Racing's number 11 team was one of the many that had been kind of phased in towards the end of that year, and that becomes kind of the challenge along the way. Very excited about the series coming up. Those of you who've seen the episode here, you know which team that we're talking about next. If you haven't seen the video yet, I won't spoil it for you, but I think it's going to be very interesting coming up. I've been working on some other ways to kind of organize the schedule for this series. So far, it's been about one episode a month. I'd like to see if it picks up a little bit more. I can't guarantee that, but that's something I'd like to at least do. But I will tell you this, while the number of episodes is still kind of up in the air, series is not planning on ending anytime soon. There's a lot of teams to go over that we have not talked about, and also some pretty key moments during that 2004 season that haven't been talked about yet. So look forward to seeing more of that in these next few weeks and months here as we keep going with Rise of the Field Fillers. So again, thank you everyone for tuning in first and foremost, and looking forward to doing some more content on that. The other person I got to give big thanks to is Dean Arnold, son of the late Don Arnold. I reached out to him. Just did a couple of searches there to try to find, because there is a business in Naples, Florida still, the Arnold and Arnold LLC company. And I spoke to Dean about that. That's how I found him, through that business. It's not actually the same business as the development business. They really kind of more manage properties rather than develop properties, and that. So it wasn't necessarily a remnant or a descendant, I guess, so much of the old Arnold companies from back in 2004. But he is indeed, Dean is indeed one of, I believe, 3 sons of Don Arnold. His brother Stuart was another person that we're expecting to talk to. I was hoping to kind of work something out with an interview beforehand. Obviously, with the holidays, it was a little tricky with that, but I'm hoping to do some more, interview him and get some more questions asked on that. If we do get that done, that may end up in the Patreon, or we'll do something on this channel. We'll work on something with that. But interviews was definitely something that I'd like to kind of focus on with future episodes. I was very fortunate in the Kirk Shumberty one, for example. That interview with Rick Benjamin was actually posted by, I believe it was Doorstop Nation's channel. He used to follow a lot of the field fillers kind of after racing underdogs, but before the stuff I did, more about 2006, 2007. So big thanks. And he's mentioned in the credits in that video as well for that interview. So talking with some of these drivers or team owners, depending on the circumstances, that's going to be a big feature on future episodes that I want to kind of tie in. And the first two interviews, both the Kirk Shelmerdine one and the one with Dean Arnold and this one, pretty much they were very short interviews. So pretty much all of it you've heard so far. I will tell you already, for those of you that are in the Patreon, there is one interview that I've already done for a future episode that is 3 hours long. 3 hours long. Ran out of batteries on my voice recorder. And that is absolutely going to be a future episode of this. And I want to put, if not the full interview of the 3 hour thing, maybe, kind of compress it down a little bit. I'm going to put that in the Patreon there. But a lot of audio from that is going to be in that particular episode. I don't know if I'm going to get that much material from some of these other drivers and team owners that are in this series. But if I can get anything close to that, I think we're going to have some very interesting ones. So look forward to that. I won't tell you which team it is yet, but you're going to know when that episode gets posted. So that's going to be a very interesting one coming up here. So yeah, no, it's actually less of an interview too, but I basically just asked, I think I asked maybe 3 questions to the whole thing. But just had to, just really didn't want to interrupt. So the person gave me a whole lot of great stories on that. And that's going to be a very interesting one. So that'll be one to check out. Let's see. Oh, Ian White, you're asking which music's used in the intro. The full music credits and everything will be in the description for the video. I believe there's 3 different tracks that I've used in each episode so far. So you can check that out. That'll be on that. Want to show the interview on the second channel? There's an idea too. Maybe do something like that further along. I just want to make sure everybody that's in the $10 level of the Patreon is getting enough bonus content. Because I was mentioning interviews as something there. Maybe we'll maybe we'll have one portion of it there or something. There's 3 hours of content. I probably can distribute that quite a bit, but we'll see how things shake out on that. But most of what's going to be in that interview is going to be in that episode. I don't know if it's going to be a 3 hour episode, but probably of similar length. Once I get the highlights out of that, that'll certainly be the one that's going to be in that one there too. So that's going to be something that we're going to be working on coming up here. But next episode's already in the works. Was working on the script for that yesterday, and I'm hoping to get some more content on that. And we'll see how things shake out on that end there. But that's going to be very interesting. But this series, yeah, really enjoying putting it together. Enjoying talking with y'all in the chat room there. So I hope it's been as enjoyable for you guys there. Hopefully by the end of December, we'll have the next episode and we'll do it again. We'll do another one of those premieres and do a live stream there. And we'll tie all of that together as well. But one thing I will also say that I'm working on for this series at the same time is there's going to be a lot of combining of some of the teams. Some of these episodes maybe just focusing on one driver. So generally speaking, they've been focusing on one team so far. There's one episode I'm looking at that may cross over a couple of teams, 2 in particular. There's other ones where maybe just focused on one driver that hops between multiple teams. And there's other ones where multiple teams kind of fall under one category. So you're going to see a little bit of variety in some of these. But generally speaking, the format's going to pretty much be the same as what you've seen so far. Now that we've gone 3 episodes into this, hopefully you get a good sense of what that's going to be. So that'll be the focus going forward. But the focus is, I'm getting a lot of questions on this with what series it's going to be. The focus is going to be on the Cup Series. But like you saw in this one here, it dabbled into the Truck Series a bit. Because it was certainly relevant to what happened with the Arnold Motorsports team that season and what led up to the present day. You're going to see other ones that maybe talk a bit about the Busch Series or Xfinity Series, even ARCA coming in at some points as well, depending on which series the team was into. That's why I'm not really looking into doing one necessarily focused exclusively on one series, because a lot of it is going to get brought up, I think, just organically in these. I think the next episode in particular is going to be one that's going to really kind of dabble in a lot of those different divisions. So that'll be something that will definitely get you exposure. Although Cup Series is just my focus, just because that's what I'm most comfortable with. That's what I have the most background in. Busch Series and Truck Series and even ARCA is going to be kind of the expanse of where this is going to be going in the next few weeks and months. So that's going to be an interesting one to certainly talk about that as well. Let's see. So this is really our first live stream that we've done since the NASCAR season wrapped up. So obviously we can certainly talk about a lot of the other crazy stuff that's happened the last couple of weeks. I guess we can talk about the Truck Series schedule and some of the other silly season moves that are about. If you have any other questions in the chats, I'm certainly open to talking about that as well. I'm seeing some other comments in here about Mach 1. Yep, that's definitely one that's going to be a future episode. When in the chronology, you'll be maybe interested in when I'm going to bring up some of these teams here. I've tried to kind of tinker with a way to make it a little bit more creating a constant narrative that ties everything else together. Beast of Metal, thank you so much for the super chat here. I thought about mentioning it in the premiere chat, but decided on here instead. An argument could be made for a roundabout tie between Arnold and Starcom via Cope's on and off track ties to both. That's a very good point. I mean, really, with Starcom is very an interesting story because you have very much a startup team just from scratch, really, that was built around a sponsor. Starcom has a lot of similarities to Colic Racing. If you look into the history of that team, that you have a sponsor that really wanted to build a team around a driver or an organization in that sense there. And, obviously in the Cup Series, it's even more challenging in the Xfinity Series, but you have some similarities. But yes, Beast of Metal, it's a very good point that in that same sense, I mean, Cope had that experience of working with startup teams and seeing how they can be done. And also really with the team that was mentioned in the beginning of this episode, the number 37 team, the Quest Motor Racing team, that team goes actually back to 2001. And there were other ones there too. And actually, I misspoke at one point there. I said the Geico sponsorship started in 2002 with Cope. It was actually back in 2001 in their first season. I think it was in Indianapolis that year. There's a render of the car online. I haven't seen footage of it, of the car necessarily. So the Geico sponsorship in NASCAR goes back pretty far, but shares that same tie with the Don Arnold team. And of course, all the way up to Germain Racing to the present day. Thank you also for mentioning that that Arnold's team actually attempted the 2006 Daytona 500. I wasn't aware of that. I thought they just ran Homestead and that was it. But you certainly can't blame them for running another home track race there in Daytona before they shut down. But still, I think that was the interesting thing too, is the separation between Arnold Motorsports and Germain Racing. That although the two of them worked together and even branched out into ARCA and the Truck Series, the number 13 team that we saw close down was technically separate from Arnold Motorsports, that there was a gap there for at least a couple of years between when Arnold's Dodge number 50 team stopped and when the number 13 Geico team started. But yeah, I mean, they basically have the same central nucleus of experience. My original attempt, and you'll notice this certainly from this episode compared to the Kirk Shelmerdine one, I had originally thought about saving all the information about where the team is today or what happened when they shut down. I was going to kind of put that in a later episode, maybe at the end of the season, but which is why you didn't see the clip of Todd Bodine going into Kirk Shelmerdine's car in the Kirk Shelmerdine episode. But obviously I've changed the strategy on that. I think especially in this episode, given the fact that Germain Racing just shut down, I couldn't not talk about that. So really future episodes are going to focus on basically the entire career of the team. Basically after 2004, it's going to be a bit more brief, maybe just mentioning some highlights along the way, but each one will be self-contained to actually talk about that. So I'm glad that there was that connection between Todd Bodine and the Germain team, that I was able to kind of tie that together at the end of this one. But future episodes are going to be basically, unless I change that up, I'm not planning on it necessarily, but really talking about all of it. So, and that's going to be very relevant towards the next episode in this series, because it's definitely going to be the entire time period in there. And this one's actually going to have a lot of front end and back end on that, where it's not just necessarily a startup team. So it's going to take a little bit of a different approach there at the same time. But yeah, this is going to be certainly a very interesting one to talk about, and we'll look into that going forward there. Yeah, Geico even sponsored Eel River. Yeah, Charles Peterson. You're exactly right. Yeah. So I mean, different time there with the sponsors. But it's interesting which sponsors stick around and which ones don't, or which ones are in and then disappear for a while and come back. Some teams or sponsors have long-term solutions or long-term presences in the sport there. So that would be another one to certainly talk about. All righty. So let's see here. We'll do some trivia here. I do have a little trivia thing. We'll jump into that a little bit. I'm just getting my thoughts together on everything that's happened so far in all that. First and foremost, one driver and team that perhaps is not any surprise will be certainly a part of this series is Morgan Shepherd. And of course, with news just recently that he is dealing with the early stages of Parkinson's disease, certainly sending out our best thoughts and prayers over to himself and his wife, Cindy, and his family and friends out there. This is, certainly a condition that, is very difficult for certainly anybody to be dealing with. But certainly in the case of somebody like Morgan, who's so used to working with his hands. Actually, my uncle is a carpenter and has been dealing with the symptoms of that as well. And I know how difficult that is. Morgan's definitely somebody that I'm hoping to do an interview with for the series here. We're definitely going to be doing an episode on him. It's not going to be this next one, but it's going to be within the next few episodes here. So we'll certainly be talking about that, which is highly relevant to not just his Cup Series effort as it happened back in 2004, but how that connects to even his Xfinity effort, which they're still looking to continue to do next year, hopefully with Landon Castle, because Landon's just done an outstanding job with Morgan's team there, and that'll be one to certainly be talking about as well. But we're definitely going to do one on Morgan Shepherd. I've actually got some comments actually before this episode of people being actively interested in that. So yes, I can absolutely confirm, as if there was no doubt of that, of course, that we're certainly going to do an episode on Morgan Shepherd. And in fact, actually, one thing that's interesting in the information that I've been doing on the 2004 season, there's even a spinoff team from Morgan Shepherd's team that's going to be in this too. I think that may be a standalone episode as well, but we'll hopefully get some more information on that. And again, interview segments on that. Hopefully you can kind of tie all that together, and we'll have that for the next few days and weeks and ahead here as well. Let me see. What else do we have on this? Big thank you as well to everyone for supporting the Beneath the Sheet Metal series over on NASCAR Man's channel. I'm seeing I'm very pleased with a lot of the comments on there. I appreciate the comments in there about my narrative work there in the videos. But again, I really need to defer on the videos on NASCAR Man's channel. As I've always said, I'm just the one very fortunate to be narrating those videos. He's the one that's doing all the hard work, coming up with these ideas, writing the scripts, putting together the editing and all that. I know how much time that takes, certainly on my channel. So really, if you really enjoy the stuff on his channel there, really a large part of the thanks have to go over to him over there. He does a fantastic job on that channel. I have another script actually that he just sent over to me, I believe about a week ago. And it's going to be very interesting putting together these stories for you guys going forward. So I'm also interested to see a lot of these stories that everybody's sharing about different chassis they're seeing and trying to get other stories on those. We'll see again how those episodes are going to be coming together, but there's no shortage. Much like with the field fillers thing, it's a very rich topic, and I look forward to doing some more narrations of his videos there. But again, big credits to him on those channels there, on those episodes rather, for future episodes, and we'll do more of those coming up there. CPO Fast Forward, you're asking about the Don Levy and the Means teams as field fillers. Originally I was going to do a standalone episode on Junie Donlevy's team. That may end up kind of be absorbed into another one because I have kind of another idea for a future episode that's going to kind of cover a larger number of teams under a certain similarity. That may change depending on how we go along the way. It depends on how much information I have on one team or another. But that'll certainly be one that we need to definitely talk about. Let's see. The Truck Series going to Knoxville. Kevin Love. Yes, thank you for bringing that up. I got to say, and I know I put the message on Twitter when the news originally broke. I wasn't happy about them leaving Eldora. I understand that there's Tony Stewart owning the track, and that series with Ray Evernham and everything. The basically reimagining of the IROC series next year, which I'm sure is going to involve that track there. And I'm sure between that and NASCAR, there's going to be a lot of butting heads going on there. I'm not crazy about them leaving that track. I thought Eldora was a decent track for the Truck Series. I know that there's a lot of slipping and sliding around there, but that's the way the sport's supposed to be. And I think a smaller dirt track, I think, is a bit more consistent with kind of the NASCAR throwback angle there. I was hoping actually that in the long term, the All-Star race was going to end up at Eldora if the Truck Series race ever went out of fashion there. I'm still perplexed as to why NASCAR has taken this direction to put dirt on Bristol and get rid of what was a perfectly good Food City 500 race in the spring and convert it over to that. I think if you're going to have a dirt track throwback kind of race, I think that should be, maybe an exhibition race or something. And then it's already kind of the format that we had at Eldora, I think, was fantastic enough, where you had these heat races, last chance qualifiers, and so on. You can do an all-star race with that same format and be much more engaging than what we've seen, even at Bristol, at the concrete Bristol just last year, shows a perfect example of why, the format at Charlotte just doesn't seem to really be working. But in terms of adding Knoxville to the schedule, I'm glad there's still going to be a dirt race that's actually at a real dirt track out there. And Knoxville, of course, is, just a tremendously prestigious event. I'm actually kind of surprised NASCAR was able to land that on their schedule, given, that the Knoxville Nationals are just so renowned amongst all other events on their own calendar. It seems almost like an invasion, similar to the Brickyard 400 of NASCAR running at Indianapolis. It almost doesn't seem appropriate, really. I know NASCAR has had a history of some other competitors. Had Steve Kinsler trying to get into the Cup Series back in 1995 or so. It does feel, again, maybe it puts on a great show or something, but I think it's a little bit strange just again, because it just seems like a little bit less of a fit, because I think a smaller dirt track, and I think the Eldora track, they were just running there enough times to get kind of used to it. But I know that they haven't done it yet. We're going to find out. Maybe it'll turn out that it's going to be a lot more exciting than it seems, and more power to them if it is. That's certainly going to help the sport. But it'll be interesting to see. I don't know if it's going to be one that we're going to cover next year, but that'll be one to certainly talk about at the exact same time. Yeah, it's disappointing. I mean, well, yeah, and Nicholas, you bring up the point about attendance for Eldora. I mean, it's too bad. I don't know how much of that is a consequence of the racing itself there, or just it not being new anymore. NASCAR constantly looking to try different venues, but we'll see what happens. I think the problem with the Truck Series also is that one thing I think that was very striking is starting to see the Truck Series in person for the first time in a while, even at tracks like Phoenix. It's just they just seem kind of underpowered in some of these venues. I know at larger tracks, even like a place like Phoenix or something, which even though Phoenix itself, the older configuration, was where the series ran the first time, it's not exactly the same thing as running a sprint car or something like that around there, or something maybe a little bit more agile or something. But we'll see what happens. I would rather they go back to Montreal if they're going to ever run something else. I would love to cover the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve out there, the Xfinity race out there. Every one of those was an instant classic. And they certainly didn't have an attendance problem there. There was just some other ridiculous finger wagging or whatever was going on there that just messed everything up. But hopefully things turn around on that end, and maybe that gets reconsidered. Iowa leaving the Truck Series, leaving the schedule in general, not a big fan of that. It seemed like they were going to be taking another step towards getting a Cup date, if anything. But I guess this year kind of messed all that up, getting cut off the schedule. I was very certainly concerned about a lot of the tracks that weren't getting races this year because of the whole pandemic, and who is going to be coming back next year among that group. I'm very relieved that Sears Point's come back on there. I'm not surprised at all that Watkins Glen is back on there. I will say that it's very long overdue that Watkins Glen's getting a Truck Series date back. I think the Trucks put on fantastic shows there. You watch some of those old races, that iconic clip of Greg Biffle and Boris Said going into the chicane, and banging doors there. I mean, they're designed for that track. Long straightaways in the tight corners there. I think that's going to be a very exciting race. I just hope it's covered a little bit more competently than a lot of these Truck Series races have been in recent years. I'm more excited about that, to be perfectly honest. I was hoping they'd get a date over at Sears Point because I think they put on a good show out there at the same time, but we'll find out there. Let's see. What else they got? I mean, they got the I guess they scrubbed, what was it? They scrubbed Michigan. They scrubbed some of these other tracks on the schedule there. I got to get the actual schedule pulled up here. Trucks 2021, the schedule. But let's see. Yeah, still going to have Charlotte. Wait, what the heck is this? This can't be right. 2021. Why does this one show Irwindale? They're not running there. Okay, it's probably some, I don't know what's going on there. They're not running Irwindale for the trucks next year. Did that just completely slip right by me? I'm not seeing that here. Stock car racing fandom. That's got to be somebody's like fantasy schedule. I didn't even know Irwindale was still open. I figured they were probably closing down. Okay, yeah, no, I'm not seeing that on there. I didn't think so. I'm a little, I mean, again, the thing I'm not crazy about, and now we even have this on the Truck Series, have it on some of these schedules here. I mean, the Cup Series schedule having the 2 Darlington races, as much as I mentioned like them scaling back Darlington, again, I still stand by the idea of having each track just have one date out there, but it seems like that's still not the trend. I don't know why they're not changing around on that. Yeah, no, I didn't think that would be. Yeah, Dover's gone. It's too bad. Dover's had some good Truck Series races. I mean, they seem like they had what, like Scott Speed won his first race out there and all that. I think they put on some decent races there, but it's unfortunate that's not shaken out. Okay, there it is. Yeah, Bristol Dirt for the trucks, the Nashville Super Speedway for trucks. I mean, we'll see. Pocono still on there. I'm glad Motorsport is still on there. I was really worried they were going to get cut. It seemed like this was kind of an opportunity with everything happening this year. They were going to scale back on those. That event seems to get a real good crowd. I mean, I got to say, back in 2019, I mean, even that whole hillside on the straightaway was just packed with people there. You had to really kind of navigate your way around there pretty carefully. But beautiful facility, too. I got to say, they put on a good show out there. I'm glad Gateway is still on there. I mean, there's a lot on the Truck Series schedule I don't mind too much. I'm perplexed as to what's going to happen at COTA. I don't think that Circuit of the Americas is going to be really designed well for the Truck Series. Then again, they seem to put on good shows at the road courses most of the time. Motorsport and Watkins Glen, of course. It just COTA seems a little bit too strung out, and it almost seems like too much of an obstacle course for the trucks. I think you need the horsepower of a Cup or an Xfinity car to get around there decently, but we'll find out on that one. And let's see. How many laps at the Dirt Bristol race? I don't know. I mean, well, with the stage racing, they could probably make it any length they want and just treat it like heat races, but I don't know if that's going to be the same plan necessarily. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we're looking at doing maybe something in Texas next year because we had to cancel a trip to Texas a couple of years ago. That's one we're kind of looking at next year. We don't have anything firm on that. Right now, we're still, again, looking at Fontana in February, Sears Point in June, and Phoenix in November in terms of our trackside coverage. Beyond that, we'll see how things kind of work on that. Texas is kind of the one out there. I don't know if we do COTA versus the Oval. Probably do the Oval because I feel bad that we weren't able to kind of follow up on their invite to us a couple of years ago. So I'd certainly like to follow up on that and do some coverage there. Again, I know the Oval, it doesn't necessarily have the most exciting races in recent years, but it does have some really good last place battles, I got to say. And at the end of the day, that's what we certainly cover there. And yeah, well, quite honestly, I got to try the food down there too. I keep hearing good things about that. So we'll see. Texas ended up featuring pretty prominently in this last episode of the Field Filler series too. So we'll talk about. I'm still trying to think about what nickname I'm going to give the Michael Jordan team next year. I kind of want to. I was thinking about the Jumpman Javelin or something like that, or some kind of. I guess with you have an embarrassment of riches with how many different nicknames you can come up with for a Michael Jordan tie-in or something with that, and all that too. That was the interesting thing too. When I talked with Dean Arnold, he actually mentioned the Michael Jordan team and thought it was interesting that there was still that germane connection with the handing over of the charter and all that. It's unfortunate that the team doesn't exist anymore there, but that's I guess some piece of it's still going to exist in one way or another with that. But we'll certainly find out. Coda's going to be a wreck fest for the trucks. I mean, it's certainly possible. I mean, we'll find out. I think Motorsports Motorsports just such a beautiful area there. And I should have explored the track a lot more because that whole back half of the track, I mean, I was just kind of staying around the garage area in the front stretch. But if you go around the back part where there's that horseshoe up there, it's very secluded. The trees are thick enough that, if you walked like maybe 10 feet into it there, you probably couldn't see the track at all. I mean, it's just that dense in that area. And I don't know how well it shows up on camera because the camera's just aimed inward. But yeah, beautiful, beautiful area up there. What other stories have we had recently? I'm just browsing my Twitter feed here to kind of see some of the other stuff that we talked about. We talked about Morgan Shepherd. We talked about the Truck Series schedule. Ken Squire, hope he's feeling better as well. I appreciate Dave Moody for keeping up on the updates here on him. Of course, it's no secret that he was a big inspiration behind why I did the starting grid videos back in 2008, trying to impersonate his tone on there. But there's only one Dean of American Broadcasting out there, quite honestly. And the man still has it, whether he's working at that short track up in the Northeast or those throwback weekends there at Darlington in the booth there. It's very good to see. But certainly hope that he's feeling better as well. With the symptoms that he's been dealing with here. And again, big props to Dave Moody for providing the updates here on Twitter along the way. Yes, actually, I'm looking back here, counting back a little bit. Congratulations to BJ McLeod and Matt Tifft. We heard earlier on about them getting into the Cup Series and starting a new team. BJ McLeod, we saw actually leasing some cars from Rick Ware Racing last year and bringing his number 78 out there. And actually, very much like the Arnold team, had a good run at Bristol going before he got collected in the late race accident. I believe that Denny Hamlin triggered there towards the end. He was on his way to, if not a top 20 finish, certainly a top 25 finish there towards the end. Things dropped back a bit, but good to see him back out there in the number 78, bringing that back. I guess Matt Tifft is going to help with some of the backing. At least it seems to be that way. With his past sponsorship there. I've been able to speak with both these drivers before. They're great personalities out there. It's good to see them have more of a sustained presence in the Cup Series side of the garage area. And I certainly hope that things go out very well for the number 78 team out there. They always seem to run some nice paint schemes on the McLeod team too. Even when they're just running the plain black and yellow cars from the past, they're starting to get more and more backers out there. And if the renders of the Live Fast Motorsports team are any indication, I think they're going to have some pretty nice looking paint schemes out there. So not exactly sure which team is going to be doing the best between them. I think this is going to be the one exciting thing is seeing how Live Fast Motorsports does versus the Trackhouse team versus 2311 Motorsports there at the same time. Between those three teams, it's going to be interesting to see which one prevails. I think everybody's favoring the Michael Jordan team with the Denny Hamlin connection and Bubba Wallace with his sponsorship and having pretty much most of the storylines here already. But I don't know. BJ McLeod might be a sleeper in that whole thing. It'll be interesting to see how all that shakes out. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, and I guess, we're going to have a heads up on Rick Ware Racing. They're going to have an announcement here pretty soon, the next couple of days. So we'll see, I guess, if not how many cars they're going to run, but what number they're going to run, or maybe which drivers are going to run. It could go any number of directions, given the fact that basically by the end of the year, they had not only the number 15 from Premium Motorsports, the former number 27 from Premium, which became part of the number 52, and then their existing number 51 and 53. And then on top of that, Spire Motorsports, being a sister team, or kind of under that penumbra, and Spire having another charter of their own, who knows how that's all going to shake out? I mean, that could be, is it going to be like 5 or 7 cars, or is it just going to be down to 3? I mean, who knows at this point? And if it's, somebody's charter, or how many charters they're actually going to use, with the new pay structure, which I'm still not crazy about. I know there's sponsor money and everything else that's going to be on that side there. But at the same time, if you're losing more money out of guaranteed money on that side, it just kind of messes everything up. But not exactly sure what's going to be happening on that end. But I think maybe this announcement from Rick Ware's team is going to kind of shed a little bit of light, at least on how many cars he's going to have on that end. And we'll certainly talk about that in the near future. Let's see. Yeah, 7 is too much. I don't know. I mean, it could be something else. The thing I'm most excited about actually is Rick Ware's Xfinity program. I think they really turned some heads at the end of this year, both with Cody Ware's run at the Roval and JJ Ailey's run at Martinsville. I was very impressed with that. I think it's a little bit of a stretch to run 2 cars next year. I think it would be great if they just focused on 1 car and just saw what they could do and then build from there. I think 2 is a little bit a little bit too much to bite off. That kind of tells me maybe that they're going to scale back on their Cup Series program at the same time to kind of spread everything out a little bit more. That's just a guess, though. I'm not exactly sure what's happening there. The IndyCar side of it, I'm not any expert on that side, but if they were able to branch out into that as well, I think IndyCar would certainly benefit from having as many cars out there as possible. And I know Rick wants to get another stab at the Indy 500 after the unfortunate way that they finished last with James Davison earlier this year, and that bizarre right front wheel issue there that knocked them out of the event. Hopefully they can turn things around at the same time. Yeah, Yaley at Martinsville, I think he was like 14th or 17th. He was doing really well. I'm not sure exactly what run it was, but he was having a fantastic run out there. He wasn't quite up to where Cody was at the Roval, but he did a fantastic job out there, I recall. Let's see, where was that? Results. And 14th. Yeah, 14th. Wow. Yeah, and he led 5 laps during the late sequence there. So good run for him there. So yeah, so even better. Again, a team that's able to do the very best they can. I think that, maybe if Rick Ware ran 2 Cup cars, 1 Xfinity car, and then branched out into IndyCar, I think that would be plenty to do. But then again, that's why I'm not the businessman out there, and he is. So maybe he knows something I don't. It would not be entirely surprising, I will say. But if they're able to get something going on that end, I think that's the best way to do it. But of course, the charter thing is what screws all that up, because of course, if you have the charter, you're going to have to use it, or you're going to have to lease it to somebody else or sell it to somebody else. You can't just hold on to it and end up having 35 full-time teams out there instead. So I guess if there's anything positive to say about the charters, and I'm still have a pretty short list on that end, I guess there's that. But it just seems sad to kind of have to settle with just 36 and be done with it at that point. Beast of Metal, thank you again for the super chat here. Taking away the remaining TV money from the open teams is not unlike if the MLB were to can revenue sharing with their small market teams like the A's. Exactly. Oh, very good point. These teams, they don't need any more obstacles. If you've ever, I don't know if any of you watch a lot of older movies, but if anybody has ever seen the old Poseidon Adventure from 1972, great movie. Gene Hackman, a lot younger, and he has a little bit more hair than he does in his later movies. There's a line that he says where they're trying to escape a capsized ocean liner and try to fight their way out. At one point, the main character gets so frustrated that at one point he says, look, I never asked you to fight with us, but damn it, don't fight against us. Like, I think that's the situation that these open teams find themselves in. I think they're in a situation where, look, they're not asking for a handout. They're not asking for everybody to pay for them to be out there, but just don't make it harder for them to be there. I really don't get this. And I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, because I'm sure I've bored you guys with this enough times already in past shows. You don't need, more money to be taken away from them. You don't need more obstacles to be put in front of them to keep them from competing in the Cup Series. It's already the top tier series. It's already hard to get in there, much less run well, much less run well for an entire season or keep going from one year to the next. There's too many obstacles that big teams and small teams have to face. So why make it even harder? I can't only think that they must think that these small teams are some kind of a threat. And we've heard from people like Rob Kaufman that these teams are a threat to, they just minimize the value of the sport because just if they show that just anybody can be in there and somehow these big teams are worthless, that's ridiculous. I mean, don't even tell me that Petty Enterprises wasn't worth anything back in the 70s when they were going around as one of only 3 cars on the lead lap, and you had about 15 privateers out there and luckily made the field, a 20-car race. So, it's or 18-car race or whatever the situation is. So it's an absurd situation, and I don't know if they're ever going to see the light. I think the problem is they've now created a situation that now is just justifying its own existence just because it's existed, and we're starting to lose track of why this was done to begin with. I think we find all of ourselves in a very similar situation with everything happening in the current year. I think this is really a time where we need to really kind of question things a little bit more and not be so quick to dismiss things so quickly out of hand. But that's a conversation, an entirely different conversation, I suppose. Let's see. Any other stories here that we missed? We'll do trivia here in a little bit. I'm just kind of checking the rest on here. Okay, there's the discussion about that. Oh, Matt Yoakum leaving the Fox Sports. What the heck is going on over here? This has to be talked about because I don't think we talked about this enough with what was it, Alan Cavana, and then who was it also? Was it Chris Devoda that was being let go? There was some other. It's been so many people being let go over at Fox. I don't know what their issue is with these pit reporters. I have said many times in particular, and what I say isn't obviously isn't law, but of all the problems with a lot of these networks, I've never really thought the pit reporters have been one of those problems. Matt Yoakum in particular, for years and years, just navigates through the garage area effortlessly. He knows these people. He works with them. He talks to them. And that's what you need. You need somebody that's able to go in there and just talk to somebody and get the information out there and get the latest story. I really don't get exactly what's going on with their strategy on this end. I think that they're letting go of a lot of talent that's been one of the last few remaining reasons that their broadcasts are as good as they've been able to be. I think that when you have a pit reporter, because I've been on the other side of that. I mean, if you're in there and you're just a complete nobody or you haven't been in it a very long time, it's very hard to get people to open up to you. And I don't care if you have a camera over your shoulder or if you have a microphone or anything like that. It has a direct effect on the quality of the information that you're able to collect. So you need to have veterans in there. You need to have people like Dr. Dick Berggren that was able to be in there for so many years in his career. Your Chris Economaki types. I mean, I'm thinking from the past, of course, but Matt Yoakum is very much in that same vein. I think one reason that Mike Joy is as good as he is in the booth is because he has that same background too. You look back in the early 1990s, and he was one of the great pit reporters down there as well. You talk about Marty Snyder. You talk about all of these guys out there. I mean, anybody that has a long career out there and is able to communicate with these drivers and teams and get that information, they're doing the hard work out there. And I've stood shoulder to shoulder with them and see them work, and they got to lace up their sneakers pretty early and just keep going because they're running this way and that way and trying to get the stories they can. I know the booth is the more glamorous position where you get to just stand there and just do basically a reaction video these days. But I think it's, a very different, a very big issue to really, kind of scale things back there. And I know that people are excited about Clint Boyer getting into the booth and see how that goes. Although I think Mike Joy and Jeff Gordon was plenty in the booth. There's actually a video I was just watching the other day about concerns about a two-man booth in football and that the analyst position seems to just be another play-by-play announcer. And I was thinking a lot back to the same issues that you have in NASCAR where you have 3 people normally in these broadcasts. And in the modern years, these recent years, it's the same problem. You have 3 different play-by-play people and they're not analyzing what's happening. They're just reacting to it the same way that I would on the couch or anybody else would in that situation. It's like, look, you have all this access, give us that information. So I don't know. It's a ridiculous situation. Hopefully things kind of get restructured a little bit, but I think their priorities are a little bit brought out there at the same time. You know, but well, Blue Cup there. I see your comment. A nobody, huh? Yeah, I'm talking about with me. Yeah, I mean, I'm saying like, look, I go out there. There's people that they won't talk to me because either they don't know what I'm from or they do know what I'm from. They really don't want to talk to me. It's like, oh shoot, we got the last place guy out here. Do we want to talk to him? I'm like, nah, probably not. But that could be for other reasons. But still, at the same time, that's where it's easier to break the ice if you already know these guys and everything, and you work with them on a week-to-week basis. And it's hard to do that. I mean, if they're just going to try to work with fewer pit reporters, I don't think that's the direction they need to go. I think if anything, they need to have more pit reporters. These remote broadcasts, I think, have shown the limits of play-by-play broadcasting, that they're able to do it remotely or in person, and the product is basically the same, and how reliant they are on these infield reporters. I mean, you see Regan Smith literally sprinting up Fontana's pit road, and that's a long pit road. It can't be overstated just how long that is. If you're all the way in turn 4 and you're trying to get to victory lane halfway down, it's basically a half marathon to get down to there. So that's what you need to have. You need to have as many of them out there as possible. I think you need to have more of them, quite honestly, and just have them dictate all that. I think one thing I remember from a lot of this year, I was really pleased with how they were kind of redistribution, rather. It's been a long day, of a lot of these play-by-play guys. When Steve Letarte was on pit road at Bristol, I think he did a great job out there. At the same time, he's got a very loud voice. You can hear him over the engines. And of course, if you're seeing him standing by on pit road and you're seeing these teams make adjustments and stuff, he's able to comment on that and give you a little bit of insight. I think that was the best he's done really since he started working at NBC. I think that was a great job for him. So it could be even simply a matter of finding new places for people, and then maybe having some new personalities, maybe in other departments that are a little bit more fungible that way. But it's a tricky situation there. Yeah, Mike Massaro, seeing in the comments. Yeah, that's another one to talk about too. But yeah, but again, play-by-play is the most glamorous part, but I think the pit reporter thing is one of the most critical parts. I have to say, I mean, growing up, I really thought about wanting to be a play-by-play guy and doing stuff like that, and especially on the radio, because it seems like you have a lot more latitude to describe things and try to make it as interesting as possible, and convey it in such a way that it's live to somebody that's not seeing it. But I think if I had my choice, I probably would do the pit reporting, because you're able to kind of be in there and catch things when they happen. Certainly from the last car angle. I mean, crawling through the garage area there, who knows when we're going to be able to do that again. But whenever we are, I'm certainly going to be chomping at the bit to doing that again. I think that's the way to do it. You may not be able to see the track quite as well. You may be missing some things that are happening out there, but you're catching up on so many other things that are happening at the same time that just don't get seen and don't get reported. And, at the end of the day, these are supposed to be reporters. They're supposed to bring you that information, and not try to put some spin on it, or not just tell you to ignore it, or not something like that. They're trying to bring you that information. And I think anything that brings us closer to that direction needs to be encouraged, and anything that doesn't needs to be discouraged. So, it's easier said than done, but recognizing the problem is the first step towards solving it. So I think that's where we need to be. But yeah, I've had very little problem with any pit reporters out there. I mean, even some that maybe have less experience than others. I still think they pick up the skills just as well. But I do think you need to have some veterans in there. And releasing both a veteran in Matt Yoakum and a relative newcomer in Alan Cavana just doesn't make any sense to me. I think you're really hamstringing your group out there. I'm glad that was it. I always get it confused. Is Jamie Little right that's moving to ARCA? I'm glad she found a new spot there, because yeah, she's a good reporter too. She doesn't deserve to be cut off the list there, and I think she's going to do a good job with ARCA. So more power to her. But I'm disappointed to not really hear that Matt Yoakum and Alan Cavana, at least by all accounts, haven't found any place else yet. That's pretty disappointing to hear. So We'll see what happens on that end. But let's see. Yeah, we talked about the RTA. $750,000 a season the team has lost with that. I mean, again, it's clearly what's going on is they're definitely scaling. They're trying to scale back these NASCAR fields, just 36 cars. I mean, they've made that pretty clear. I mean, they've given every disadvantage to anybody that's not a chartered team, and they're basically saying, we don't want you here. And basically, instead of an outright ban, they're just making it as difficult as possible. It seems pretty clear from the trajectory of each one of these changes that that's what's happening. It's just disappointing to see that they're being even more brazen with that by literally taking money out of their pockets here and making it that much harder to operate. But, we'll see. You can't legislate away slow cars. If the whole point of this is to cut away slow cars or get rid of small teams, you can't legislate them away. You can have a race between two cars, and I'll bet you that a lot of times the margin of victory in that race is going to be by several laps, okay? And everybody's going to be like, oh, that second car shouldn't be out there. He's holding up the leader, even if it was just two cars out there. That's just how ridiculous it's going to be. But if they want to do that, I guess it's their ball, but I just don't think that's the wise strategy. So we'll see if things turn around on that end. Let's see. Brett Moffatt locking up the full season for Our Motorsports. A little surprising to see him not at GMS again next year. I don't know if just that loss at Phoenix has just left a particularly sour taste in his mouth. I don't blame him because that was a horrible way to lose it. But at the same time there, the Our Motorsports team seems like they've really kind of turned the corner. Maybe they can get to a point where they're even outperforming how well their ancestors at GMS did before with John Hunter and Nemechek. I think they've had some flashes of brilliance this year. Unfortunately, they were a last car feature at the Roval, but fortunately they were able to miss all the rain as a result of that. But that'll be an interesting team to talk about here. Big thank you also to Tommy Joe Martins. He posted a very nice tweet there about myself and the website here a few weeks ago. I want to definitely thank him again for his kind words on that too. I know that in my own particular experience, I've crossed paths with him on some difficult occasions, both at Watkins Glen in 2018, where he had a very scary accident to one of the barriers, ended up in last place in that event, or at Fontana earlier this year, where they had all kinds of problems with oil lines and some fires under the hood there that damaged their car. But at the same time, I've also seen him have some good runs, where he was at Phoenix for Carl Long's team a couple of years ago and got a good top 20 finish out of that. He's kind of seen it all and done it all with these different teams. And this year, of course, that 10th place finish over at Texas was an exciting thing to talk about. One of many great stories on the Xfinity Series side. So definitely appreciate his kind words on that. He's a very, very cool guy. You ever get a chance to cross paths with him, definitely say hi to him, because he is definitely one of the ones who will say hi back for sure. Kind of looking beyond here. I think this is pretty much where this left off. Yeah, this is pretty much where the season closed out. Okay. I think I've pretty much covered a lot from this season here. If you have any other questions here, we'll do some trivia here in a little bit, because I know those of you who have been waiting for that will jump into that. John Hunter Nemechek going to Kyle Busch Motorsports. Yes, thank you for bringing that up. Again, I think it's an interesting step to take, because one thing with John Hunter that's impressed me is how much he's been able to get out of his own family's team in the Truck Series. The fact that he was able to win some races with very little sponsorship in that number 8 truck, and ultimately that's what got him into the Xfinity Series and the Cup. I know he's had a difficult year this year, but there's been some moments this year that he's actually looked pretty good. At Talladega, both Talladega races this year, he could have conceivably won those. He was just very much a factor in them, just didn't quite shake out at the end of it there. But I think he's a pretty good wheelman. I think that in a Kyle Busch truck, there's going to be no excuses there for non-performance, because, if he's able to wheel Joe Nemechek's team out there and work with very limited resources, tremendous amounts of experience over there, actually even more experience than Kyle Busch Motorsports actually has. Maybe in that sense, if they're able to kind of combine those efforts there a bit, I'd be very surprised if he doesn't make the playoffs. Very surprised. Not saying it's impossible. There's a lot of situations there that may not play out that way, and the Truck Series schedule is going to be a little bit bizarre. But I'd be very surprised if he didn't make the cut there. It's unfortunate with the way everything shakes out there, but that'll be interesting. Rafael Lessard to GMS. Don't know about that. It was good to see Lessard finally win a race. Maybe the opposite from John Hunter, maybe a little bit less pressure on him in their situation. Although GMS, of course, being a championship caliber team, I mean, heck, they've had just about all of the Final Four last year. Maybe that's more of a lateral move than it may seem on the surface. Not sure how that's going to play out, but if it doesn't, we're going to know probably by mid-season. So that'll kind of be the situation there. Let's see. Best moment of the year for NASCAR? Tough call. I got to say, probably the best race to watch would be that Roval race in the rain for the Xfinity Series. That was just an absolute artistic performance there, because you had a situation where you had a lot of just beautiful shots of these cars running through the rain. It was just fun to watch. I think that it may have been messy at certain points, especially when the rain started coming down. Excuse me, but you had also some situations there where it was, really exciting to see. Can't certainly count on that happening on a more regular basis, but that was certainly fun to watch. I got to say, one thing that was actually kind of enjoyable, at least in the short term, there was back at Darlington in May, first race after the pandemic break. There, it really makes you kind of enjoy the sport a lot more, and seeing just how many people outside the sport that had no interest in it or no background in it, and how active it was on social media that particular day. I think that was great. I think, unfortunately, a lot of that goodwill was kind of squandered with a lot of other events that happened later on. But I think in that one moment, it was a pretty exciting situation. I think there's a lot of positives that could be drawn from that. But we'll see what happens on that end. Newman recovering from the accident at Daytona. I think that was, my goodness. I mean, we started this year with one of these streams, and it was just nerve-wracking in that. I mean, wasn't really sure how to really approach it afterwards. Certainly a feeling you hope to never have at a racetrack in the immediate aftermath of that. But there were promising signs, fortunately, very, very early on there, and tremendous to see him back out there again and back in the car again and all that too. I know Newman didn't get as much coverage the second half of this year, but he had a couple of runs that were back to the same performance he at least had last year, and we'll see where things kind of go from there. But a lot of other crazy things going on there. A lot of moments this year, a lot of moments on the LASCAR side too. I was just thinking about that. I got to work on still updating the books, the LASCAR history books of the Cup Series, the Xfinity Series, and the Truck Series. The Formula One will be obviously after that series wraps up next month. But think about it. For example, we had Norm Benning get 15 last place finishes, setting the record for the most in the Truck Series. We had Michael McDowell break his tie for the most last place finishes in the Cup Series. Breaking the tie with Joe Nemechek. That was back at Pocono. We had Ryan Preece get 3 in a row, starting with that ridiculous accident in Indianapolis where everybody piled into each other coming down pit road. We almost had 4 in a row by him, trying to equal a past record there, and then ended up being his teammate, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. I know a lot has been talked about. We talked about John Hunter Nemechek having a lot of struggles here in the Cup Series this year, but I think in terms of teams, no team has struggled more than JTG Daugherty Racing this year, even more than even more than Carl Long's team, Motorsports Business Management. They've even had a little bit more success this year that JTG had. I know that Ricky Stenhouse won the pole of the Daytona 500 this year, but it was unfortunate how quickly things went away once the race was completed on Tuesday. But a difficult situation there. Michael McDowell, James Swan, you point out. McDowell, the other side of the coin, had some good runs this year. The Martinsville race in June, he was right up there. Had, I believe, his best ever run at that track. And seems to be really getting comfortable in that ride. Actually, there was this other person that I talked to, I almost let it slip, for the 3-hour interview, mentioned Michael McDowell specifically as one of the best drivers out there, even in relatively limited equipment out there. So is he going to be one to watch more next season? Is he going to turn the corner and finally break through with a win? Well, that would be certainly exciting to see, given how often he's been featured on NASCAR in the past when he was driving for Phil Parsons and Mike Curb there. That's the kind of story we love to follow. But in the meantime, yes, he still holds the last place record on the Cup Series side, and that'll end up being one other thing to certainly talk about this year. On the Xfinity side, it was much more of a toss-up. Stephen Light and Timmy Hill getting a lot of last-place finishes on the Motorsports Business Management's team from an ill-handling car at Darlington when that series returned to action, but Light finishing last in that event, and other events this time. So hard to say at the same time, but we'll see. Just checking on this one. Alrighty. Where is it there? But there's certainly been some difficult situations here at the same time. I mean, you also still have to think about not only all the obvious stuff happening in the country, but also the I guess we still haven't heard anything about Mike Harmon's team getting back their cars that were stolen after the Daytona Infield Road Course race. Then we had the other situation with, I think it was Wayne Peterson's team. I think they said that they got those back, or there was some update on that a while back. So hopefully they had some more information on that. But we'll see what happens there. Brad Keselowski's first last place finish. Exactly. There, Blake. Good call on that. First last place run for Brad Keselowski, the last of the drivers that had triple-digit number streaks without a single last place finish in their Cup Series career, ended this past August, which was certainly an interesting moment. Didn't expect it. He was actually my fantasy pick to win the race, which is probably the the kiss of last, I guess, that took him out of that event. Yeah, I mean, a lot of different records that were set this year, a lot of unusual last place finishes, a lot of bizarre stories along the way, but that'll be something that we'll break down in the Last Car books on both Amazon and Smashwords there in the meantime. That brings up another point there at the same time. I mentioned this on Twitter yesterday. For those of you that are interested in buying copies of my book on J.D. McDuffie, J.D., The Life and Death of a Forgotten NASCAR Legend, I don't have any more copies in my collection. I actually just sold the last copy that I had with me. I'm not going to be able to get more new copies until the beginning of next year. So if you're ordering some for the holidays, make sure you order it through another provider, like through Amazon or anything like that. If this message gets missed by anybody and they send out a payment, I'll gladly refund that and just direct you to order it online there. And if you're still interested in me signing your book, we can work out something like that in the meantime. Whether you send your copy to me, or what I could even do is, I've heard Walter Lord did this when he wrote Night to Remember. He used to sign stickers and then just have the person stick that sticker inside the cover, so you'd have the autograph in the book. So the next best thing, and I could certainly work that out as well. So if you're looking for that for the holidays or anything like that, certainly drop me a message or an email, and we can work out something on that end. But I won't have any copies of the book until the beginning of next year, and then we'll be able to have those going forward. So we'll see how things go at that same point. But again, the focus is going to be on the Rise of the Field Filler series and potentially some other articles maybe along the way, but I'm not exactly sure where that'll shake out, but we'll find out as things go. So I'll keep the floor open here if you guys have any other questions. I know we're running a bit long here. We're over an hour already, but we'll do some trivia here for those of you who have stuck around here. We'll again use a Trivial Pursuit. Go ahead and mention in the comments which of the following categories you would like to have here. Categories are NASCAR, pits, teams, tracks, drivers, and the wild card. So again, those categories are NASCAR, pits, teams, tracks, drivers, and the wild card. Oh, excuse me. Did I bring my beverage up here? I'm not sure if I did. Oh, I did. There we go. Getting a tad parched. Okay. All righty. We got guesses for, let's see, tracks, 2 for tracks, 2 for wild cards. We got 3 for tracks. Ooh, what was the best Ken Schrader M&M's paint scheme, Leland? That's a very good question. Best Ken Schrader one? I mean, the primary one was really good. The same one that Ernie Irvin had and everything. I like the red, white, and blue one that they ran for after 9/11. The one they ran at Dover. I know some people don't like that one. I thought that was gorgeous looking. I'd probably be tempted to vote for that. When you said M&M's paint scheme, the first thing that came to my mind was Elliott Sadler's black and white car for the 2004 Daytona 500. If you just said M&M's paint scheme, that would absolutely be my favorite. I thought that was really cool looking because from a distance, it just looked like, it was like a black and white photo out of like an old newspaper or something. That was my favorite. Out of Ken Schrader's, though, I think there was that one year that like they voted purple as like the new color in M&M's bags. I think they had like one scheme for that. That one was pretty good. But yeah, I don't know if I like that one better than just the primary. I think I like the primary the best. I think that would be the best one. So that would be the one there. Yeah, not code red this time. We went to round table earlier, so this is just Diet Pepsi in here. Encyclopedia. Well, I wouldn't go that far. I still missed the last start for Arnold Motorsports in 2006. It's never like was it Michael Jordan that said there? Or was it Tiger Woods? Is like you don't remember the shots you take, you remember the ones you miss, or you remember your losses more than your wins. I guess a lot of athletes probably say it, but I remember more of the stuff I forget than that bugs me more than the stuff I remember. But yeah, the vote car, there was that. You remember Snickers Crisper? They had like a Crisper version where they had like a version of Snickers where like they deliberately messed it up, so it had a whole lot of like Rice Krispies and stuff in it, like no nougat. So it was like eating a doorstop. Like that was like, yeah, they promoted, or was it Crisper or Cruncher? I think they had a pretty good paint scheme that Schrader ran with that, and they had that. It's basically the equivalent of like not like a Nutrageous bar, but like something like that Reese's would do. But there was one that was a decent one. It was Wayne Gretzky. Okay, there you go. I don't know hockey well enough, so there's that one. Speedy G18, Mike Harmon racing, the progress made this year. I think they're pretty much the story of the Xfinity series. Ryan Vargas in the TikTok car and the great runs he had for JD Motorsports. Tommy Joe Martins and his team this year are right up there in that same pantheon. But I would say Mike Harmon's team has consistently been the most impressive. I pre-ordered the Kyle Weatherman car after they got the top 10 at Kentucky. I have to say that was probably the most excited I've been on Twitter there, typing out the updates there as that happened, watching him get from outside the top 10 to into it, and then advancing even more. It's like, oh my gosh, he's going to almost get a top 5 here. That was fantastic. And we talked about Brandon Built Motorsports and SS Greenlight Racing being the big story. We did a lot of these live streams last year. Mike Harmon Racing has to be the story of this year's Xfinity series there in terms of underdogs. There's been a lot of other ones that have had great runs. Josh Williams, the number 92, I'd certainly put him in that group also, that have had a lot of great moments. Even Dexter Bean getting a career best finish. Mario Gosselin's team, really in general, with Bean and Gosselin have been right up there. But I have to say, in terms of overall improvement after so many years in the sport, and even really a lot of times that Harmon's team wasn't really featured on the last car site. You realize they didn't have a whole lot of features in the articles. The few times that they were mentioned, they had their first last place finish in maybe a couple of years. They were last at the Roseanne 300. That was like their first last place finish in about, I think, 2 or 3 years. And that was pretty typical. It could just be on the deftness of Jeff Green and how quickly he was able to pull behind the wall a TriStar Motorsports car. But I think Mike Harmon's team has absolutely been the story of the year in terms of the Xfinity Series underdogs. And there's a lot of competition in that category this year. But that was really fantastic, I would have to say. Would love to see what they can do next year. Hopefully, in the meantime, they find their other hauler and they get some of their old equipment back. But that would be an interesting one. But yeah, the main paint scheme for the Schrader car probably be my favorite. It's hard to improve on the classic with the hastily painted 36 on the door there, and the freaked out yellow M&M on the back. That's a classic one. It's hard for me not to think of that one. Let me look back at the categories here. We had, let's see, tracks, wild card. I see a lot for tracks here. We probably do that. Let's do tracks here for this one. And we'll do some questions here along the way. If you want to know what other... Oh, Beast of Metal. Thank you for tallying them. There you go. Thank you for keeping up with them in Alaska. Well, thank you, Speedy G18. I hope you keep following the channel here and the website. And we'll get some more content next year. We're already getting ready for next year. And, well, I'm glad I have a bit of a break because I got to admit it was a little bit difficult churning out that many articles after the pandemic break. We had 4 or 5 articles in the weekend. I think I did literally wear out my keyboard this year. The Z key still doesn't work. And I think the X doesn't work either. So I basically had the Infinity series instead of the Xfinity series. But that would be the other one. Yeah, Isaac. Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. I mean, the main paint scheme for the last lap of the 500. That's the unfortunate part of it. Kind of like Jimmy Means' Alka-Seltzer car, another gorgeous paint scheme, but unfortunately tied to a tragic accident. But I can't say that would be an improvement from one to the next. But I still don't like Schrader's as much as that black and white Elliott Sadler one. You might have seen it in the background in like the Arnold video or some of these other ones. Easily my favorite. Let's see. Tracks. First question here. What 17-year-old won the 1998 pole at Nashville in only his second Busch start? What 17-year-old won the 1998 pole at Nashville in only his second Busch start? We got a Busch question right off the bat. Miss 100% of the shots you don't take. There you go. Yeah, there you go. That's the one. I don't know why I'm complicating that so much when I was trying to recall it there. It's just like, it's kind of like that scene out of Hot Shots Part 2 where it's like it's like the upper hand is on the other foot or something. All right, we got several guesses for Casey Atwood. We got one for Dale Jr., Randy Arizarania. Boy, that's one where even if you say it dramatically, it still sounds like you don't know who you're referring to. That's confusing. Is it Casey Atwood? 17-year-old won the 1998 pole at Nashville in only his second Busch start. The answer is indeed Casey Atwood. There you go. Point goes to the group there. Joe Aramendia. There's a lot of different ways. Almost. Alrighty. What track is actually located within the town limits of Hamlet, North Carolina? What track is actually located within the town limits of Hamlet, North Carolina? Hamlet, North Carolina is the hometown to which track? By the way, for those of you wondering at home, the shirt I have under here is my Michael Annett number 46 shirt from 2015, I think it is. So there you go. I was going to just wear it just by itself, but it's a bit chilly today, so I don't want to catch cold in the own house here. So I do have that. All right, which track is located within the town limits of Hamlet, North Carolina? The answer is indeed Rockingham. Rockingham is the correct answer. Alrighty. Next question. What Tennessean won the 1960 inaugural World 600 at Charlotte? What Tennessean won the 1960 inaugural World 600 at Charlotte? The H. Scott team. Yes, that's correct. Actually, kind of a tie-in with the next episode that we're going to be talking about. But yeah, the number 46. There you go. This one I bought at the tents they had that year at Sears Point, and I still will continue to insist for all the things that I rail against NASCAR for changing for no reason or things that from the past that they just won't leave, won't bring back. I think that tent was a great idea. I think that was the best way to sell merch there. It was so accessible. You could pick through things. You could look at different things. They had a closeout section for a bunch of old stuff. That was an absolute fanfare to go through because you could have a bunch of old, outdated chase gear for teams that missed the cut 2 years earlier. That was the way to do it. I know IndyCar does that, and they actually have the right idea. And the NASCAR thing was a great idea. And I know you don't have the visual satisfaction of those trailers, but I tell you, it is not an efficient way to do merch. It just isn't. And I, as a fan back then, bought a lot more than I was going to if they just had the trailers. And look, and for those of you that have been to a track, the tricky thing is when you're buying diecast and a lot of it's behind the shelf, they put one on the table. You don't know if it's like chipped or anything like that, or if it's like messed up. And sometimes the quality control is not very good. So it kind of helps to actually look at it and, make sure you got like the right one or something like that, or just see what they have. And I think also, especially at a track like Sears Point, where we don't usually get all the haulers because they usually just stay right around like the, Charlotte area. And, if you go back east, go to like Bristol or something, you have a ton of them. You go back out to the West Coast and you have maybe like 5 or 6 of them. The tents are absolutely essential out there. So I think that needs to make a comeback. But that's another one. Alrighty. What Tennessean won the 1960 inaugural World 600 at Charlotte? We got guesses for Joe Lee Johnson and Rex White and Fireball Roberts. And the answer is Joe Lee Johnson, indeed. We got several guesses for that out there. Joe Lee Johnson, Maserati 9. I think you were the first on the button there. For the Krillman Experience, Dana Mon. There you go. Several other ones. Yeah, the gypsy tents, okay, now Sears Point used to have the gypsy tents. What they did is they used to have those. There's the track where turn 10 is. There's like a little elbow that goes out. That's basically the farthest extent of the track property. Then there's the road. I think it's Highway 121 there. And then on the other side of that road is the large parking lot. That's also the RV parking lot. And it used to be along that fence before you cross the street to the track, had gypsy tents. And they were really good ones up until maybe like 97, 98, thereabouts. We used to have those. We don't anymore. Which is really a shame. So I always have to travel out of market to see some gypsy tents. We had some great ones in Darlington a couple of years ago. There's that gas station that they had like old Ted Musgrave hero cards and stuff like that. It was great, but you just don't see anything like that out here, unfortunately. It's not, at least not at the Cup races. When they have like some of the short track races out here, like when they have like World of Outlaws or something, they have some really interesting tents that come to those, but not to NASCAR, at least not to the Cup Series. I can't speak for like the K&N or the ARCA Series or anything like that. Maybe you have some better luck with that, but yeah, just not at the Cup events anymore, at least not at Sears Point. And I haven't seen them at Fontana either. It's very different out here on the West Coast versus that, which is unfortunate. It's different. In some ways it's good, but in other ways it isn't. Yeah, the Daytona ones, I gotta do Daytona one of these days. The ones that Slap Shoes posted where you can buy like anime stuff and NASCAR stuff in the same section, man, I'm all about that. I can get that would be fantastic. Yeah, it's very different out here. But we did used to have them. We used to have them all the way up on the hill in the S's. We used to have like independent trailers and stuff up there. You could buy like dusty old Racing Champions cars from 1989 out there. Oh, it was great. Now there's just nothing up there. Now they just park mobile homes up there, which is nice. I mean, I guess it's one trade-off. You got great property you can park your mobile home on, but it's not much to really see in that sense. So I don't know. Yeah, the flea markets of the NASCAR races. That's a good way to put it. Fish Productions. Those are always great. Racing Recorder. Oh, don't get me started, man. I'm still not a fan of them taking away purse money from non-chartered teams. Absolutely not. I don't see a real practical reason for doing that. All right, here we go. What state had a total of 64 concrete, dirt, oval, drag, or road courses by 1998? Let me read that again. What state, we're looking for the name of a state, had a total of 64 concrete, dirt, oval, drag, or road courses by 1998? Ooh, favorite Sears Point race, James Swan. Ooh. Favorite overall, the favorite one I've been to would probably be a way to narrow it down. You know, despite how heartbreaking it was at the end, it would probably be 2002. That was probably the best and the worst, because it was cool that Ricky Rudd won it, because Ricky Rudd was another driver I liked pulling for. But Jerry Nadeau's near victory in that one was really exciting to see. I'd have to say. 98 had some good moments. Jeff Bodine did really well in that one. Bobby Hamilton almost won it against Jeff Gordon. Of course, that one had Jerry Nadeau hitting the barriers there. If I had to pick one, it'd probably be 2002. That was certainly the most memorable, for better or for worse. There's been some other good ones there. There were some years I was just absolutely even more excited than usual to be there. And I think next year is going to be another one of those years. Gosh, I think 2010 when Jimmy Johnson won it, Ambrose is doing really well in that one. Just ones where you have a lot of great storylines. I think those are the really exciting ones to think about. 2002 had a lot of those because you had a lot of unusual teams that were in it too. I wish it was there for 2004. That was one that we missed, but that one had a lot of teams. We'll talk about that later in the series too. I have plans for that one. I know Sears Point doesn't get talked about a lot in this one, but that'll be one to talk about. What state had a total of 64 concrete, dirt, oval, drag, or road courses by 1998? The answer is Texas. I don't know if anybody got that. 2003 is a good guess. Yes, 2003 was a very good race. 97 was good with Mark Martin. That was very good. 94 wasn't the most competitive race, but beautiful field. Fantastically competitive field. At least further back. Wally Dallenbach was good in the 43 car. Ooh, yeah. I might like 94 better than 2002. 2000 had some good runs. Sterling Marlin was really good in that. So that's the problem. Once I start thinking of one, I'm going to start thinking of some others. So probably the one I should pick would be the first one I think of. So probably, 2002. Earnhardt winning in 95 was cool. Yeah, Texas is the answer to the question. That's a little surprising. I don't think anybody had that. Yeah, Dale Jr. doing good in 2014. That was exciting. He was just running over everybody. Maserati 9, you got it. Wow, you're the first one to guess it. You got it exactly right. Right on. I think you were the only one to get that one. Yeah, that was a tough one. Speedy G18, you're supposed to go Sears Point this year? Oh, man. Hopefully you come back next year. If you do, we'll have to, if there's a way, we'll have to meet up. Because I'm definitely going to be aiming for that this year. Yeah, Sears Point earlier in the year would be nice. It does, when you watch like 95, 96, you see what Sears Point looks like in the spring with Cup guys out there. It does look gorgeous. It really does. But it's a summer date, man. It's hard to give up a summer date. If you have June, you have kids out of school, you have things like that. Especially now that it's going to be early June, which is basically about the same time of year it was when I first went out there in 92. That would be another one. Oh, yeah, when Paul Menard did well, that was exciting. That was I think that was the last one I saw from the stands before doing the media thing. That was really cool because he was absolutely charging through there, and it was so exciting to see. Whenever there was one guy that would outperform there, that was definitely something to see. What was once known, next question we have here, what was once known as, quote, the Labor Day race? Now, think about this one for a second. This was made in the late 90s, and it's asking what was once known as the Labor Day race. Yeah. I'm not sure if it's that answer. And it's before that answer, so it shouldn't be that one either. We'll see. What was once known as the Labor Day race? This is going to be an interesting one. Yeah, 2003 is a good pick. Robbie Gordon beating Jeff Gordon, and Jeff not leading a single lap. Ron Fellows and Boris Said doing fantastic, probably having career runs in very high-powered cars out there. Hideo Fukuyama was in the race. I think it was his last Cup start. Yeah, see, again, a lot of stories, a lot of great stories in that one. I would have loved to be in the media center for that one. Yeah, 2003 is a good pick. Was there an Atlanta race around that time? There was at one point. Okay, everybody's guessing the Southern 500. Let's see. The answer is, it is a Southern 500. I thought it was going to be a trick question because it says, what was it once known as? But it's bizarre because it was always the Southern 500 from the start. That's, yeah, okay, weird. Alrighty. Next question. Where did Jeff Gordon win his first road race? Where did Jeff Gordon win his first road race? Yes, Beast of Metal. Yep. 98, I guess, had the last race for Darrell Waltrip's team. Wasn't that the last one for Tyler Jett when Tyler Jett was taking over Darrell Waltrip's team? Yeah, Fittipaldi. Yeah, Christian Fittipaldi was in the... I remember what Darrell Waltrip kept saying, like, Fittipaldi all the time when he was in the 43 car. There's only 2 damn tracks. Yeah, exactly. Where did Jeff Gordon win his first road race? And the answer is Watkins Glen. Watkins Glen, 97. Beast of Metal, looks like you were first on the button there. Sears Point seems like it would be the answer, given how dominant he was there. And he did win there in 98, but by then, he had already won Watkins Glen. I think he had to beat Mike Skinner if I remember correctly. Here we go. What is the HA short for in Humpy Wheeler's name? Don't look it up. Just try to guess. What is the HA short for in Humpy Wheeler's name? Yeah, think about that one. Anybody remember Matthias Ekstrom? I remember the Sears Point has had when I did that Sears Point video, one reason I wanted to do it was just to say all those names of these foreign drivers, because you had Klaus Groff and Matthias Ekstrom and Jan Magnussen and Jacques Villeneuve and all these other ones. Villeneuve. What's the HA short for in Humpy Wheeler's name? Max Pappas, Hideo Fukuyama. What's the HA short for in Humpy Wheeler's name? We have Henry Aaron, Harold Allen, Herbert Allen, Harold Augustine, Howard Arnold, Harold Arnold, Hideo Fukuyama. The answer is Howard Augustine. Howard Augustine. Krillman, you were very close. You had Harold Augustine. It says Howard Augustine. You got Howard Arnold, Maserati 9, and Krillman. You were very, very close. Howard Augustine. Here we go. Who won the first caution-free Mason-Dixon 500 in 1971? Who won the first caution-free Mason-Dixon 500 in 1971? 1971. All righty. Who won the first caution-free Mason-Dixon 500 in 1971? All righty. Saying Matthias Ekstrom makes me think of Matthias Ekholm, an NHL defenseman. Well, there you go. All righty. I guess it's for Petty. Pearson, Petty, Jean-Gabriel Pajot, Bobby Isaac, Cale Yarborough. Is not the race the lap nearly whole field by 2 laps. What track? It doesn't say track. It just says Mason-Dixon 500. Who won the first caution-free Mason-Dixon 500 in 1971? The answer is Bobby Allison. Bobby Allison was one hot shoe at Dover. That's an aspect of his career that doesn't get talked about that much. Bobby Allison. Cecil Gordon would have been a great answer. Maserati 9, you got it. Again, there you go. Seems like it would be Petty. But Bobby Allison. I was just checking out the comments here on the video. I like the comment that Nate Licard left here at the top. Who wants to watch a documentary at 3 in the morning? Me, who is in Finland visiting relatives. Oh boy, 3 a.m. Kudos to those of you in different time zones. I try to shake these up a little bit. I know we did some in the midweek and we did some on other times, but very appreciative of everybody checking this out. So yeah. Oh wow, somebody guessed pretty much the next schedule of this. Just about. Maybe not the same order, but no, I had to check that out. There we go. Interesting. Alrighty, next question. Okay, here we go. Next question. What caused the 1980 Carolina 500 at Rockingham to be postponed for a week? What caused the 1980 Carolina 500 at Rockingham to be postponed for a week? Yes, that's right, said Ed too. Yep, he won the pole at Dover in 78. JD McDuffie did on the McCreary tires. And that got him into the inaugural Busch Clash, which is now going to be on the Daytona Infield Road Course. So that'll be fun, perhaps. Well, somebody's got to finish last in it, and you better believe we're going to be writing about it. So we'll find out. What caused the 1980 Carolina 500 at Rockingham to be postponed for a week? I do legitimately get excited to find out who's going to finish last in these races. I don't hope for any particular team to, but the way I look at it is I really get two races for the price of one. I get to see who gets to finish last and who gets to win the race. And usually by the time one is settled, the other one's about to be settled, which is fantastic. I think that's really helped me kind of enjoy the sport even longer than maybe I would have otherwise. So hopefully for some of you viewers out there, I hope it's turned that way for you. So maybe that helps. I don't know. I can't know how much of an effect it has, but hopefully it has. What caused the 1980 Carolina 500 at Rockingham to be postponed for a week? The answer is snow. Snow. Speaking of which, the Snowballs are still the best team in Gell's Marble Run series in Marbula 1. I have watched qualifying for the most recent race, and I still believe that. If you guys have a favorite team there in the Marbula 1, definitely mention it in the comments. I'd be interested to hear. I don't know. My eye just draws to them. I think that's just the way it went. Like, you just watch enough of these. I don't know if they're really the worst team or if they struggle the most or if they have the most last place finishes. I think the Limers have the most last place finishes. It seems like they're always down there. But yeah. The answer is indeed snow. Okay, next question. Morgan Shepherd finished first in Atlanta 1993. Yep, that's correct. Oh, last car for marble racing. It'd be a hard one to write. I guess it'd be like the battles are tight enough in that one. Kudos to them, though. I think that was one thing that kept me from going completely insane during the 2-month suspension of the season. But I remember being really, really excited for the championship round. I like the way they set that up. I won't spoil it for those of you guys who haven't seen it, but it's a lot of fun. Alrighty. Next question. Who won the Winston Select at Charlotte Motor Speedway in 1996? Who won the Winston Select at Charlotte Motor Speedway in 1996? Alrighty. It's Pollo Loco. There you go. All right, get guesses from Mikey and Bill Elliott and Terry Labonte and Michael Waltrip and Ted Musgrave and Terry Labonte. How about that Dale Earnhardt story in the Arnold Motorsports video? I assume most of you guys have seen that there, but if you haven't, definitely check that out. There's an interesting connection between the Intimidator and the team that's featured in that one that maybe you wouldn't expect at first. In fact, a couple of interesting connections there. It just shows how small the world really is. That one really surprised me. I knew once that came up in the interview, I had an opening written for that episode, but it wasn't nearly as good. So I'm glad he picked up the phone Dean Arnold did, and we had a good discussion there. Alrighty. Who won the Winston selected Charlotte Motor Speedway in 1996? The answer is indeed Michael Waltrip. The thing is, well, I guess I'll go ahead and spoil it if people have seen it there. The one thing that was interesting to me about the Earnhardt story in that video, and I didn't follow up on this yet, is that he mentioned Dale Earnhardt being there and Sunday Money and Michael Waltrip being there. And as far as I'm concerned, I wonder if there's a crossover with Blink of an Eye where there was the moment where Michael Waltrip comes down to the Bahamas with Dale Earnhardt, and that basically, Earnhardt and Ty Norris were there, and ultimately leading to Michael getting into the new team at Dale Earnhardt Incorporated. I wonder if he was there for that moment. I can't imagine he was privy to the business discussions about that, but it made me wonder if that was the same time or something like that. But I was also interested that he mentioned Roger Penske in the same breath there, so that would be really interesting to find out. Yeah. See, there you go. Yeah, Isaac, you got me right on the button there. All right. Okay. What event did Johnny Mance, Herb Thomas, and Nelson Stacy all win on their first try? What event did Johnny Mance, Herb Thomas, and Nelson Stacy all win on their first try? What event? All right. We got several guesses for the Southern 500. We got one for the World 600. We got one for the Daytona 500. And the answer is indeed the Southern 500. The Southern 500 indeed. The season finale 500. I can't believe they went with that name. That's just bad. I think Homestead would have been. I mean, I like going to Phoenix and everything, but I think Homestead's still a better showcase for the championship round. And I think the last race should be 500 miles, not 500 kilometers, not 400 miles. I think it needs to be 500 miles. It should be a gauntlet to win this championship. And I know it already is because it's a long season. You got multiple rounds and everything. But I think that last race of the year, wherever it is, should be 500 miles. I can't imagine a 500-mile race at Phoenix. I think that would be a little too arduous. But I think a place at Homestead would be perfect. But maybe that'll really do it. 500 laps, I don't know. I mean, I'm not as locked up on that, but maybe. It seems like they're probably positioning the new rebuild of the Fontana track to be the finale, judging from the development efforts that are going into that. I don't know, but it'll be interesting. That's certainly, again, one reason we're really pushing to try to cover that next year, because that'll be, regardless of what access they have, I am very anxious to see if they're going to have the race winner stay around for an extra couple hours and start digging the track up. Because I want to be there for that if that happens. That'll be interesting. How about a rotating finale? Sure. Yeah, that's fine. Keep people on their toes. They'll make it the same each year, so everybody has to use the first Phoenix race as a test, and that's way back in March. But who knows? What state did Darrell Waltrip travel to for his first NASCAR Winston Cup race? What state did Darrell Waltrip travel to for his first NASCAR Winston Cup race? Ooh, yeah, 750 horsepower with low spoiler. Go back to Atlanta for the finale. There, problem solved. Exactly. See, Atlanta made a great 500-mile race because whichever configuration you had, talk about a gauntlet, an absolute gauntlet. What state did Darrell Waltrip travel to win for his first NASCAR Winston Cup race? Not to win his first. What state did Darrell Waltrip travel to for his first NASCAR Winston Cup race? Tennessee, California, Georgia, Alabama, Texas, Florida. Ooh, Alabama. Alabama? Okay. And the answer is Alabama. Alabama. Auto Rocket. Oh no, Maserati 9 just got in before Auto Rocket raced in 94. Krillman Experience, Head 2, Beast Metal, and James Swan and Isaac McKissick. All right on it there. We'll do a couple more here and probably wrap up and do this here. Alrighty. What 22-year-old became the youngest ever to win a race at Talladega in 1986? What 22-year-old became the youngest ever to win a race at Talladega in 1986? All right. 22-year-old became the youngest ever to win a race at Talladega in 1986. Hurricane Studebaker. I just saw your comment there. Piece of metal. That's good. All right. What 22-year-old became the youngest ever to win a race at Talladega in 1986? The answer is indeed Bobby Hillin, or Bobby Hillin Jr. Bobby Hillin. Always good to get a Bobby Hillin question. Okay, those are too easy. Where's the harder one? All right, here we go. Now, don't look this one up. Last question of the evening. Last question. Hopefully, this one's not too easy, but we'll find out. All right, get your hands on your buzzers. What track is found at the corner of West 16th and Georgetown Road? What track is found at the corner of West 16th and Georgetown Road? Which track? We're looking for a track that is found at the corner of West 16th and Georgetown Road. West 16th and Georgetown. All right, we got several guesses for Indianapolis. We got Bristol, Martinsville, Richmond. This might have been too easy, but we'll see. What track is found at the corner of West 16th and Georgetown Road? Pensketown, Indy, Brickyard. All righty, here we go. The answer, last question for the evening, folks. What track is found at the corner of West 16th and Georgetown Road? And indeed, the answer is Indianapolis. You guys are too good. You guys are too good. Well, alrighty. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you for checking out episode 3 of Rise of the Field Fillers. If you're just came in here late, the video is now available here on this channel, so feel free to check that out. Thank you so much, everyone, for your guys' support. And we're just going to kind of keep things pretty loose here over the off season here. We do other live streams. We'll talk more about any other silly season news that comes through or anything, any compelling stories that come across the desk here. But in the meantime, the website is lastcar.info. The Twitter is @lastcaronbrock. If you're interested in supporting me on the Patreon, it's patreon.com/lastcaronbrock. If you're unable to join the Patreon, next best thing is just to keep sharing the videos here on this channel, especially Rise of the Field Fillers. Episode 4 is now in the works, and we'll have that ready hopefully before too long. But in the meantime, the first 3 episodes are now available here. So I hope you had a fantastic Thanksgiving weekend, everyone. Thank you for spending a little bit of it with me here. And, have a safe holiday season, and we'll talk again pretty soon.